Alright guys, it's Beer here, hope you're good. So, completely different video today. We're at Brighton Electric Studios in Brighton, obviously. And today we're doing a really cool experiment whereby some of you may have noticed I'm using universal audio gear now. And I have the Apollo 8P audio interface, and it has these things called unison preamps, which are really advanced, which we'll get into later on in the video. However, basically we wanted to shoot out the real deal, the outboard analog versions of the universal audio plugins, and that's why we're here at Studio 2 at Brighton Electric to go and show you how it's done. So I've got Dave, got one of the guys from Universal Audio down, got Ben, Hannah, Dan, and we're going to do a massive, huge experiment type deal. So let's go check it out. I'm excited. I don't know about
excited.
You are excited?
I'm excited.
That makes a change.
This is another one of those videos that's right up my street.
It is indeed. So today we're at Brighton Electric Studios in Studio 2. And this whole idea started a couple of months ago, and me and you were talking because we've both just got Universal Audio Apollo 8P interfaces.
Yes. Essentially, it's analog hardware emulations, and you can process it. The unit itself processes all this sort of DSP and everything, and it has its own little digital mixing console that you can apply everything to and record everything straight in like you're using analog equipment.
Yeah.
So before even having to open up your actual session, be it Logic, Pro Tools, whatever, you can track everything with processing straight in without having to use any plugins. It's like
a producing version of a Kemper in a way, because it does this
exactly what it is.
So they're amazing, and so we were chatting. We were like, they do the plugin called the Neve 1073 preamp that you can load up in unison, meaning that it actually affects the way the microphone reacts on input.
So essentially, you know, we've got a Neve 1073 behind us, and if you plug Neumann U87 into that, the preamp itself would actually load the microphone in a certain way, and that's part of the kind of texture and the coloration of the sound of something like a Neve 1073 is the way that the relationship between the mic and the preamp itself works.
Yeah, so these interfaces do that. Yeah. They basically recreate that. And so we were like, okay, so what would happen if we took a Neve 1073 preamp in Universal Audio's Unison plugin and actually A-B'd it against a real life Neve 1073? Which is why we're here. It is. Because as Dave rightly pointed out, behind us is 8 channels of Neve 1073 pre's. And we've loaded up 8 1073 unison pre's. And then the idea is we're going to mic up me, Dave, Ben and Hannah, play a tune, and then jump between the two. We're splitting the signal both ways. Yeah, so essentially what we've got in the live room where we're going to be playing is a active split box that has transformers on both the duplications, and basically we're feeding all the mics into the back of that, and then we're splitting that out, and one is coming into one of the 8Ps and the other one is going straight into the Neve, and then we've got the line outs from the Neve feeding a second Apollo on line ins. Right. So then we're recording in real time in the same Logic session the two things basically, and one is the digital emulation and one is the real thing. Yeah. What do you reckon? What do you think? What's your assumption going to be? What's my assumption going to be? I know it's going to be very close. Yeah. It is going to be very close. My suspicion is that maybe the low end is going to be slightly more controlled on the analog one. Right. Just because I think it's just one of the characteristics. When you've got analog hardware, and particularly stuff that's like hand wired or whatever, there are slightly different tolerances, and obviously they will have modelled the plugins on a specific 1073, which might not sound the same as this, or exactly the same. And the other thing is that analog hardware reacts to different humidities, temperatures, and stuff like that. So this 1073 will sound different tomorrow than it does today. Yeah. But in terms of it sounding better or worse, or not sounding like a 1073, the only thing that I could suggest is that potentially the low end might not be as controlled on the UAD. But I'm happy to be proven wrong because you know. See, my assumption was the high end. I was like, is it going to be slightly more clinical in the high end? Is it going to be more sparkly on the digital version than it is the analog version? That was my kind of reservation. Okay. Because I can't work it out, you know, because I always find digital stuff to sound more clinical. Yeah. So that was my assumption. But in any case, we've just set up all the 8Ps and stuff. We're gonna be micing up all the gear in the live room, and then we're gonna start tracking some stuff.
So other technical bits to add are that we've also got, so we've got the two 8Ps. One is we're using the 8 line-ins from the Neve. The other one is 8 preamps using the UAD plugins. And then we've got an Apollo Twin, which we're using to feed the monitor and talkback in the other room, and also control the monitors here. So we've got the ATCs and the NS10s, so we're using the Twin for doing that. And we're going to be also, we're going to have a play around with applying some of the other outboard stuff that they've got here, that we can also use the UAD stuff to emulate. So we've got like the LA2 down there, and the DVX 160A, and also we've got the 1176. So we'll probably patch in a couple of other bits as and when as well, and then also replicate those. So we'll have a good comparison of some stuff that's just the pre's, some with the pre's and the EQ, and some with some other compressors as well by different manufacturers. So we'll be testing quite a few things, which would be cool.
Cool, so we're now in the drum room and we've just been getting sounds, and A being the Apollo against the Neve. And we thought it was a good opportunity for Dave to take you through the mic choice and what exactly it is we're trying to capture.
So it's kind of, guess, a pretty simple setup. We've only got 8 channels of actual Neve preamp, so we had to limit the whole band setup to just 8 inputs. So we've just kind of gone with 5 mics on the drum kit. On the overheads, we've got these nice Coles microphones, which I guess you'll put a close-up of. And then we've got 2 snare mics. We've got the 22S on the snare top, and the AKG 451 on the bottom snare, and then an MD 421 Sennheiser on the kick. And that's basically the setup for the drum mics, really.
It's probably worth saying that we decided that it was a good idea to get a drum sound that was a bit more vintage and a bit warmer and a bit drier.
Yeah, just because of the style of track that we're doing. And also the position of the overheads is in a kind of like equilateral triangle recorder man style thing, because we couldn't use the toms. Or we didn't have enough channels for tom mics, so this is kind of getting us a bit of body from the toms as well.
And so although we don't necessarily have a dedicated room microphone, there should be quite a lot of air and breath around the drum sound in general because of that, I'm guessing.
And again, we're just trying to go for that kind of vintage vibe, and obviously we're using the Neve 1073, and that's kind of what it's all about. Is that sort of thick and saturated kind of sound.
Awesome. In addition to miking up the drums and stuff like that, obviously we're miking up the guitar cab. I've got my rig set up here, and we decided that we would use the Aston Spirit microphone, basically because it's a bit of an all-rounder, a bit of a Swiss Army knife microphone, but it does sound really good in guitars. And again, you've got switchable polar patterns, a dB pad, and a high pass. So there's a lot of options on it there, and because we're doing predominantly clean guitars, it's going to be a nice experiment actually using this microphone for that purpose. The only downside is that, of course, it's a condenser microphone, so it's going to pick up a lot of sound in the room, but that works in our favour for this particular video because we want that kind of room energy, so it's no bad thing if we get a little bit of drums coming through.
So Hannah's going to be using this Shure SM7B microphone, and the reason we're going for that is it's large diaphragm, so it's picks up a nice full range frequency spectrum, but it's a dynamic mic, so we're going to get less of the kind of bleed from everyone else, which hopefully will mean that we'll get a nice clean signal from Hannah's voice. And also it means that she doesn't have to have a pop shield, and she can kind of, if she gets into it, she can hold the mic, and we're going to get not too much sort of handling noise and that kind of thing. So it's a cracking mic for this kind of setting, and it's another good all-rounder. So yeah, that's what we're using on Hannah's vocals. And obviously best till last is the bass rig, and basically I've got my bass going into my pedal board, which I'm probably not going to use many of the effects. I'm just kind of using the tuner on it. But then the output of that is going into a tube DI box, which is the ready, which is down on the floor there, and that's going straight into being split into the Apollo and the Neve console. And then just for monitoring, I'm using the through output on that into my dark bass amp, and that's it.
Hey guys, it's Ben, just running through what I'm using today and why. Cymbals, I've got my Sabian stuff. I'm kind of going for a bit more of a cut down kit. Obviously ride and hi-hats. Cymbals wise, I'm going for something slightly thinner. See how that comes through on the mics before we're going to make a call on whether we're going to use that. Got a little splash. And I've got this nice kind of washy side crash. I've got 3 snares going on, kind of mixing around, seeing what's what. At the moment we're going for this DW Collectors series. Maple is the main snare, with this, a big fat snare drum to kind of mute it. We'll see if we like that or not. Playing a Gretsch Renown, again renowned for that beautiful vintage sound, lovely sounding kit.
Here we go. So I thought it'd be good to bring a couple of different options, because the cover that we're playing is actually quite... We decided to rearrange it a bit, make it a little bit more soul R&B. So I figured I'd need a couple of options to see what sounds better. So firstly, I've got the PRS Paul's guitar, which is lovely. And it's got a couple of different options, tones and things like that. So hopefully it sounds pretty good. If that option doesn't work, then I've also brought the Custom Shop 55, because, you know, soul and R&B was pretty much invented using Stratocasters, so makes sense. In addition to the guitars, I'm also going to be trying out the Victory V40, the Duchess, because I don't think there's any real need for soaring high gain tones when we're playing this kind of music. So I've got my pedal board with the gig rig set up and the Strymons, of course, and I'm bringing a couple of different pedals that I would use, like the VS Audio, and I'm bringing the Strymon Sunset as well, seeing which sounds better. Well, I really hope this gets communicated well across the internet and the world of YouTube, that it actually sounds different. But who knows yet? We're at the beginning of the journey, so let's see what happens.
Indeed.
On fire and no one could save me but you. It's strange what desire
Well, there we go. We're done for the day.
We are done for the day.
We've played through, I guess we played through the track a few times, get the best take, of course. Did a bit of a jam, and I guess now we need to go and mix it and have a listen to the two, because we can't do that here, obviously, it's the end of the day.
Yep. But yeah, so I guess the next time you see us, we will have got back to probably the Cove or maybe yours, and we'll have kind of been able to take a proper listen and see if we can hear the difference between the two.
So let's go there right now. Cool, so we're back at home. I've been mixing the audio, and to tell you the truth, it's been really awesome. Basically, going between the Apollo and the Neve, it's kind of obvious which one's which, but at the same time, they sound very similar. The characteristics are there, all the stuff that you'd expect to find in terms of like the warmth of the mid-range, even the warmth of the high end, to my surprise, is there. The one thing, and Dave was completely right, was that the low end is a little bit more controlled on the Neve. The Apollo does have a little bit more subby low end. It's a bit warmer, a bit rounder, a bit bigger. So hopefully you can hear that on the recording when we're jumping between the two. But generally speaking, in terms of a way of testing the difference between the two, I think we did a really good job. I think it was really insightful. And I think it definitely proves that the Universal Audio Apollo 8P really does stand up against some of the best studio outboard gear that you can find. It really is amazing what they've managed to cram into such a small rack unit. And for the price as well, considering, you know, we were recording at Brighton Electric Studio 2, which is like, there's like hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of outboard gear in there, whereas as opposed to the Apollo 8P, which is sort of £2,500. So you really can achieve incredible results with the Apollo 8P. And that was kind of the point with this video. It wasn't necessarily to go which one's better, it was to go how well does something like the Apollo 8P stand up against a real recording studio with proper analog outboard gear. And I'd say pretty damn good. And hopefully that's come across on YouTube. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I really hope it's been insightful and informative. A huge thank you to the guys at Universal Audio, and a huge thank you to my friends Dave, Ben, Hannah and Dan and Brighton Electric for making it all happen. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this. I've certainly enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you all very soon.